Good afternoon or good morning if you are in Las Vegas or anywhere else. Today is January 4th, 2023. Happy New Year, everyone. It's the first time we're together. We're back since the clock turned over. And I'm Drew Clark, editor and publisher of Broadband Breakfast, and very excited to welcome you to this first program of the new year. And today is actually well, I guess I should say yesterday was supposed to be the first day of the congressional calendar, but I'm stuck in Washington. But my colleague, David McGarry, is on the ground in Las Vegas. We will introduce him and the other panelists shortly to tell us a little bit about the CES, formerly known as the Consumer Electronics Show, CES 2023. It's almost a part of the holiday season, right? I mean, you got all the holidays, and then CES kind of extends that series of good feelings afterwards. And as many of you know, we at Broadband Breakfast launched recently, just late last year, the Broadband Breakfast Club. What is the Broadband Breakfast Club? Well, it is our membership service that extends and expands upon the benefits that are available to those of you who enjoy all of the free content we produce on Broadband Breakfast. We are all about better broadband, better lives. We do reporting on technology policy and internet technology every business day of the year. And we do these weekly free events, Broadband Breakfast Live Online, every Wednesday at 12 noon. But we've just recently added a membership component. And if you join the Broadband Breakfast Club, you get exclusive access to our signature course on digital infrastructure, 2 hours of monthly group coaching on broadband deployment, and an exclusive monthly report on the latest in broadband developments, as well as exclusive access to our video from our last conference, Digital Infrastructure Investment, which we had November 17th in Washington, and upcoming conferences that we look forward to announcing very soon this month in this new year. During this period that ends today, we've been having what we call our 12 Days of Broadband Sale. And during this 12 Days of Broadband Sale, you can get access to our membership for just $60 a month for as long as you remain a member. So normally it's $99 a month until midnight tonight, and we'll have to extend that to Hawaii time because we know we have people who watch us even in Hawaii. So until 11:59 Hawaii time, you will be able to purchase today, last day, 11:59 Hawaii time, $60 a month for the Broadband Breakfast Club. And after that, we'll still get all the great benefits if you sign up afterwards at $99 a month. And I just want to take a quick moment to highlight the great work that came about as part of our last monthly report, our December monthly report that we issued last month and has been available for that time. This is the 12 Days of Broadband, right? And I won't sing the song for you, but I'll just tell you that we did 12 separate stories on key issues in broadband, including fiber networks, pole attachments, Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, the Broadband Equity Access and Deployment Program, the FCC and the politics of the 5 federal communications commissioners, Wi-Fi 6E, the inflation rate and how that impacted supply chain, the 8 million census blocks and the National Broadband Fabric, the $9 billion in Universal Service Fund, the more than $10 billion remaining in the Affordable Connectivity Program, the 11th year of Xi Jinping's rule in China and how Chinese-American interactions has impacted the tech world, and of course, the 12th day of broadband, 12 or more state broadband officers. I encourage you to look at the teasers for these pieces. They're on Broadband Breakfast, but to get access to the full report, the 12 Days of Broadband, you need to become a member of the Broadband Breakfast Club, which you can do today, and today only for $60 a month, and going forward to $99 a month. I also want to say I'm so excited. This week, we're going to be releasing our next monthly report, our January report. And the January report is on how to challenge the FCC's broadband map. And more than 2,000 word report detailing and in good level of detail what you need to know on the challenges that are due January 13th. So very excited about all of this, and hope those of you who are regulars and join our program every week will consider and subscribe today to the Broadband Breakfast Club. On our free programming, we're not stopping that. We'll be continuing to do every week, every Wednesday at 12 noon, our Broadband Breakfast Live online. Of course, today we're at CES in Las Vegas. Next Wednesday, we'll be talking about, hey, how about that? How to challenge the FCC's broadband map. We won't be making the report available for everyone, but everyone who is free to join our free programming next Wednesday. The following Wednesday, January 18th, we'll be talking about welcoming the Chinese New Year and navigating a high-tech Cold War. And then in future weeks, we'll be talking about the 118th Congress, whenever they get themselves together, and broadband policy. And we'll be talking about the Build America, Buy America requirements and its impact on infrastructure. So lots to look forward to in the next several weeks, and indeed throughout the whole year. And before I turn it over to our great panel on this discussion, I want to make sure to give a shout out to the sponsors that make all of our free programming possible. These include Utopia Fiber, Broadband.money, Google Fiber, Broadband Now, Lightbox, the Wireless Infrastructure Association, GeoPartners, Ookla, Michael Baker International, Pinpoint Capital Advisors, Bitstream Communications, Inc., Positron Access, the California Emerging Technology Fund, and BroadbandToolkit.com. Thank you to our sponsors for making this free program possible. Well, with that, let's go ahead and open the view up to each of our panelists. I'm going to introduce our first, who is going to keynote the program, give us a little information, if you will, insight maybe into what's going on at CES. And following his remarks, we're going to hear from each of our other four panelists. David Grossman, welcome, David. David is the Vice President of Regulatory Affairs at the Consumer Technology Association, and he's responsible for representing the association before the FCC, FTC, and other government agencies. And he has a strong focus on broadband, spectrum, cybersecurity, and competition. He's worked as Chief of Staff to FCC Acting Chairwoman Mignon Clyburn, and also for Representative Anna Eshoo of Silicon Valley. She was sitting right there next to Nancy Pelosi during the vote yesterday. I can tell you because I saw that. So, David, we're so excited to hear from you. David's going to do something a little differently. He's going to kind of give us a bit of a keynote. So we'll cut him a little slack, give him a little time. And after his remarks, our moderator, David McGarry, will ask a few questions of him before he has to bow out to tour that incredible CES 2023 floor, construction zone and everything. And asking him questions will be the other David McGarry. David is really a star reporter at Broadband Breakfast. He's extensively covered broadband infrastructure, data, and mapping, and has broken lots of news on the controversy surrounding the national broadband fabric and map. So welcome, David. Thank you for being with us and for leading this discussion. Following that kind of Q&A sidebar, we'll hear from our other three panelists, and we're so excited to welcome them. Tom Camber. Tom's the founder and executive director of the Older Adults Technology Services. Great name, OATS, right? So you're Wild Oats, I guess? No, just kidding. Tom, we're very excited to have you. Obviously, we've exchanged discussion before on and Ask Me Anything through the Broadband.money community. And OATS also runs Senior Planet, which is a kind of award-winning series of programs for older adults across America and through charitable affiliates of the AARP. And he's taught courses on tech, urban studies, and philanthropy at Columbia University. So excited to have you back, Tom. The key ingredient for all these people is they either are in Las Vegas or they're going to be in Las Vegas for Consumer Electronics Show, because we wanted people who were there, who could talk about what they're seeing or what they want to see at CES 2023. Following Tom, we're going to hear from Christian Kurasek. I hope I've got that right. Christian, thanks for being with us. Christian is the CFO of both Pronto AI, an autonomous technology company, and Poland Mobile, a new mobile wireless, well, obviously mobile is wireless, a new mobile network that allows anyone to create private, affordable connectivity where they need it. I'll be listening closely about how that works, Christian. And he brings 20 years of finance experience, including roles at Guggenheim Partners, Barclays, and Accenture. And then batting cleanup, we're so excited to welcome Brian Reimer, PhD, a research scientist at the MIT Center for Transportation and Logistics. And he leads a team focused on finding solutions for the next generation of human factors challenges associated with driver attention management, distraction, automation, and he founds and leads the Advanced Vehicle Technology and Course Consortium. When I was last at CES a few years back, 3 or 4 years ago, I remember lots and lots of talk about autonomous technology. I mean, autonomous vehicles, it was kind of everywhere. And it goes back even further, right? Going back 2015, 2014, lots of talk about AVs. I'm very eager to hear more about what's happening on the ground with that. So let's turn over to you, David Grossman, to tell us a little bit about your perspective. I'll be here, but I'll be in the background. Turn it over to you, David, to guide our discussion here.
Terrific. Well, thank you so much, Drew. Thank you for having me this morning, and thank you to Broadband Breakfast for being here on the ground in Las Vegas covering CES. This will be my 15th show, and each year brings a new level of energy and excitement. This year, we have 2.1 million square feet of exhibition space. We're expecting 100,000 people here, more than 2,400 exhibitors, and 200 conference events. So there is something for everyone here, whether you're going to be attending the show in person or taking part as through our digital virtual sessions. There is a lot to take part in, as well as keynote addresses from CEOs of companies like John Deere, AMD, Delta Airlines, and Stellantis. As it relates to the world that this audience cares about, we're doing a lot in the broadband and telecom space. And I'd like to spend a few minutes providing a preview of what's to come. And some of you may know, as part of CES each year, we have what's called the Leaders in Technology program. This year, we're expecting 150 government guests, members of Congress, senators, members of the House, FCC, FTC commissioners, member of the president's cabinet. And as part of bringing those government guests to the show, not only do they have a chance to walk the show floor and see innovation firsthand, but as I mentioned, with the conference events that we put on simultaneous to the show, we engage in a number of policy discussions. And so I'll give you a preview of those. First, I'm very excited to be moderating will be fireside chats with FCC commissioners Starks and a separate fireside chat with Commissioner Symington. And then my colleague Rachel Nemeth will be moderating a chat with FTC Commissioner Rebecca Slaughter. We are doing these as part of a speaker series that we launched last May called Conversation with the Commissioner. Those were held at our Innovation House on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., where we invite a commissioner to engage in a one-on-one chat on a variety of hot topics, whether it's spectrum policy, broadband adoption, receiver performance, accessibility issues. We cover the hot issues. And last year in DC, we had Commissioner Noah Phillips from the FTC, and in the fall, we had Commissioner Starks. And so we're now taking that on the road here to CES with these fireside chats. We'll be covering many of the hot topics that this audience cares about, like broadband deployment, adoption efforts, spectrum policy for 2023, what the future Congress will look at when it comes to telecom policy. And those sessions will be taking place Saturday morning, beginning at 9:20 a.m. Those sessions will be, for those who are not here on the ground, that particular session will be recorded. It won't be live streamed, but it will be available after the show. The other session that I'm quite excited about, I will be moderating a conversation on 5G on Saturday afternoon, beginning at 2:20 p.m. We'll be starting with a opening keynote from NTIA Administrator Alan Davidson. We're excited to be welcoming him back to the show now in this new role. After his remarks, and he'll be talking about NTIA's efforts on broadband deployment and what's to come this year in 2023. We'll move into a moderated panel discussion with representatives from Qualcomm, Amazon, NTIA, and the state broadband director for the state of Louisiana. And you can imagine we'll be covering a variety of topics. I think what I'm excited particularly about this session is that our panelists represent and all parts of the broadband ecosystem. We've got a state and a federal government representative, and we have two industry panelists to provide their thoughts. Beyond those sessions, we have a number of other ones that I think this audience will care about, beginning with on Thursday. So that would be January 5th, which is the start of the show. We are thrilled to welcome Secretary of Energy, Jennifer Granholm. She'll be speaking at 3:15 p.m. Tomorrow, Thursday, on powering the clean energy future. Then on Friday, we will be welcoming several U.S. senators, including Jackie Rosen of Nevada, Ben Ray Lujan of New Mexico, and Senator Mark Warner of Virginia for a panel discussion. That'll begin Friday at 2 o'clock. And then going back to Saturday, just right after our fireside chats with the commissioners, in the same room in the Las Vegas Convention Center, we're going to have a congressional perspectives panel featuring representatives Nanette Barragan of California, Yvette Clark of California, and Daryl Issa, also of California. A couple other sessions that I think would be of interest. Saturday afternoon, we've got a session on cybersecurity policy. We will have the Deputy National Cyber Director from the White House among our panelists, in addition to industry representatives. And then we'll close out Saturday afternoon, beginning in the 4 o'clock hour, with a session on the state of privacy policy. We're excited again to have a panel that includes legal advisor to FTC Commissioner Christine Wilson, as well as industry panelists. So that's a lot, and that is only just a small preview of what we have to come at the show. We hope to see you there, either on the floor or virtual. Happy to answer any questions.
David, thank you so much for that wonderful rundown. I'm not sure if the folks online can see me, but I hope that y'all can hear me. So for a policy wonk like myself, I know I'm incredibly excited to attend and cover so many of these sessions. One thing that I think I've noticed is that there seems to be a rather wide variance of opinions between various policymakers, and it doesn't always, I should say, on tech policy, these things don't always fall neatly within partisan lines. So my question to you would be, and this is a question I may well come back to with some of the other panelists, what are some of the key things that you believe that policymakers need to understand to foster innovation going into the next decade? And I think you should, yeah.
Sorry about that. I think that's a great question, David. And you're right. These issues, while they have a long bipartisan history, and I think spectrum policy is a great example of that. I was involved on Capitol Hill in the legislation that authorized the spectrum incentive auction in 2012, as well as FirstNet. And the way that we got that done was through bipartisanship. When we talk about what are the key ingredients to foster innovation, look at a light touch regulatory approach that recognizes that industry is in the best position to innovate. They understand the technology, and regulatory barriers can slow down the pace of innovation, which ultimately is a hindrance to consumers who are clamoring for the latest technology. And that really brings it back to, why do we bring government guests out to CES? Because the reality is, the things that you'll see on the show floor, it's just impossible to show it all in Washington, D.C. We do a CES on the Hill at our Innovation House on Capitol Hill, where we bring members and staff to see a very small preview of some of the newest technologies. But it really does take coming out here and seeing this innovation firsthand.
Beautiful. I think that's a really important point. At least something that I've noticed through my coverage and through my reporting and other writing, is that there's no substitute for just good old fashioned knowledge of the technology and really understanding the issues at hand. So with that, David, I know you need to run. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today, this morning, or this afternoon, depending on your time zone. And so I invite our audience to give him a round of applause behind their computer screens, and we will proceed to the rest of our panel. So first up, and I'm very excited for all three of our guests. They are a certainly diverse group of very interesting people, and they're going to bring a number of perspectives about how connectivity and technology can really help people and make the world a better place. So I'm going to turn it over now to Tom Camber of Oats, and he is going to tell you about the great work that he does.
Thank you.
Tom?
Can you hear me okay? Yes? Excellent. Thank you, David, for the kind introduction. And it is really an honor to be here at the beginning of CES, which is a sort of an annual pilgrimage for me and the team here at Oats to go and learn about the great things that are going on with technology. I think we'd be remiss in not mentioning, since you didn't have a chance to talk earlier, Drew didn't talk much about the CTA Foundation, but Consumer Technology Association also has a foundation which helps support nonprofits around the country to extend the benefits of technology into underserved communities, particularly focusing on older adults and people with disabilities. And we've been fortunate to work with the foundation over the years. We actually were awarded their John Shalem Award this year at Oats for using technology to help older people overcome isolation and promote social inclusion and social engagement for senior citizens and people with disabilities around the country. So we're really excited to be here talking about these issues. This will be my 8th year at CES, and Oats we're a nonprofit organization. We're based in New York. We're affiliated with AARP. And as you mentioned earlier, we run programs called Senior Planet. All of our programs are free to end users. And there are, last year we had 360,000 visitors to our online trainings on seniorplanet.org. And we help people, we target the programs to people over 60. Of course, we, with our affiliation with AARP, we actually serve anybody over 50 for free. And people come in with a range of needs that go from the absolute basics. We still have about half of the people that we serve are taking computer basics classes. And it's really important to remember that even though there's all this cutting edge technology that we're evolving, many people are still in the early stage of the on-ramp. Their social networks haven't really been exposing them to a lot of the innovative technology. And many of them are saying, hey, I've been waiting on the sidelines of this technology revolution for a while, and I want to get on the train now. And so what we do is we provide multi-week courses. We have 152 partner organizations around the country that work with us at different locations using our curriculum, also for free. We grant the curriculum to them with some training, and we're training people simple things about how to use an iPad or a Chromebook or a PC, and how to make the most of your internet connectivity. And then on the other end of the scale, we're working with a lot of older people that are quite proficient with the technology, but of course are now looking at a lifespan that is, going up to 100 for many people, and having to use technology to find more productivity and more independence in their lives. And for them, in many cases, the technology is an absolute godsend to help people use their connectivity and their tech to live a more productive and healthy lifestyle. So we're at CES this year looking at some of the emerging devices and kind of updates on some things that are maturing, whether it's VR or the Echo. We're very interested in right now because voice activation is something that's really hitting its stride with older adults. We're interested in some of the older technologies. Could you call telepresence robots older now, but some of these monitoring and communications devices are really of great interest. And I'm particularly interested in health applications and fitness applications. I've been experimenting with some of the VR applications and seeing how they may really be game changers for older adults around the country now. So we're looking forward to the week.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tom. And I'm actually really excited to discuss some of the ways that the other panelists' areas of expertise might play into what you're doing. So we're going to keep this moving. Next up, we have Christian Krasik, and he is going to tell us about Pollen Mobile and maybe a little bit about Pronto AI as well.
Sure, would love to. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here. So I'll tell you a little bit about both as part of the origin story for Pollen. So Pronto, we create off-road autonomous vehicle technology. We're focused on the off-road market where the technology is mature enough to operate at level 4. We are operating every day off-road fully autonomously. But the one challenge that we run into at virtually every site is connectivity. Surprisingly, mines don't have great cell coverage. So we tried a bunch of different existing commercial solutions. Very expensive. A lot of them were clunky, didn't work great. So the advent of a couple different technologies and policy innovations enabled us to start building our own networks. One was the Citizens Broadband Radio Service, which the FCC opened up in 2020. And two is the introduction of low-cost small cells. So using those, we started building our own networks, and we realized one day that we were getting better service in mines in the middle of the desert in Nevada than we were in the middle of Silicon Valley, and realized there was a bigger problem to solve here. So we launched Pollen Mobile almost a year ago, last February. We are making those small cells available to anybody, whether it's an individual or a small to medium-sized business, nonprofit, government agencies. We've got a partnership. We just launched a pilot with the library system in Shreveport, in the city of Shreveport, to provide broadband access to low-income residents there. We provide the radio hardware. We run the mobile core, manage the back end, and also manage a system where entrepreneurs and individuals can go out and build connectivity for others without having to have the expertise and invest in the expense of maintaining the back end, provisioning SIMs, and that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of different uses. Like I said, we're doing everything from helping individuals solve connectivity problems in their homes with indoor small cells, We're helping businesses. We have a couple wineries up in Sonoma. We're running a pilot where there's no coverage, just given the topography and population density. So they now have coverage. Their employees are using it. They are interested in using it for sensors. Their customers are using it. We've got a town up in Northern California in Jenner. It's called Jenner, where there's no cell service. Now they have pollen. We have the thing in Shreveport. We've got some pilots going on with WISPs. We're working on some other government low-income housing things. A lot of different applications. And we do have a long-term vision of being a next-generation mobile carrier. Using these technologies, we think we can help the country have better cell coverage, give individuals the ability to solve coverage needs where they need it, and provide a better experience than what you can get from the legacy carriers. So we're really excited about all of the innovations that these technological and policy advancements have unlocked, and we're really excited to see everything at CES. We think there's a lot of intersections and potential applications that we haven't thought of that will be coming across the next couple of days.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Christian. And I'm incredibly intrigued and excited to see pollen grow in the next few years. I think that's going to be I think that's going to be one to watch. So batting cleanup, as Drew said, we have Brian Reimer. And Brian, I'm going to let you just hop in right now and take it away.
Sure. Brian Reamer, MIT. I come from the university in the East Coast here, where technology is the answer. And now what's your question? Sitting here at CES, where the latest and greatest of technology is on display, I work in the automated assisted vehicle space, where I think it's less about technology and more about human behavior. Over the last decade or so, as if we've listened to the promise of automated vehicle technology over and over again, how it's going to solve the world's mobility challenges, lead to safer roads, et cetera. I think the reality is the technology sphere here is crashing down in our need for safe, convenient, comfortable, and economical, sustainable mobility is demanding that we look to the basics of how do we connect technology, whether that's electrification, infotainment, connectivity, OTA, all topics that are resonating with the auto industry today. But how do we connect that with the user experience so that we can begin to leverage these technologies as part of our daily lives? As Tom elegantly talked about at the opening, older adults being a very important market segment. How do we actually enable and leverage the technologies that we're building in deploying in vehicles today, looking to assist the driver in making safe, secure decisions as they navigate the nation and their world's roadways. At the same time, we're looking for a new experience in the vehicle. We're demanding more than the traditional radio. We want to continue to communicate, perhaps talk through Echo or Google Voice or Siri at the same time, and you leverage the increasing array of broadband technologies that are out there to communicate comfortably and seamlessly as we move from point A to point B. It's becoming painfully obvious that the world is not going to move through highly automated vehicles anytime soon. I for one hope that over the long haul, much that Kristen and Pronto are working on, what we can see in limited deployments, off-road vehicles will eventually make its way into robo-taxis, but I think that's decades, if not the better part of a century away, until we'll really see highly automated mobility providing us with the seamless transport solutions that CES just a few years ago was deploying. So I think the answer today becomes is how do we really focus on technologies that can assist humans in making better decisions? The promise of AI was a lot of cases to replace humans and human decision making in a lot of areas, but the real aspect is of how do we support people in day-to-day lives, and how do we use the technology at hand, where that's broadband enabled or not, to really enable us to live more comfortable, more seamless lives in both our applications with consumer technologies, vehicles, the web, and everything else in which we touch on a daily basis. And I think it all comes down to human behavior and integrating human-centered systems as we look forward.
Thank you, Brian. I absolutely I find that absolutely fascinating. I love that. So, you also anticipated my first question for the panel, which is even though y'all work on obviously very different projects, there's the through line here of adapting technology to be complementary with and to work in harmony with human nature and psychology. Now, I think we should just jump right into the nitty gritty here. So I would love to hear from each panelist, and I think we'll go in reverse order. So we'll go Brian, Christian, Tom here. What are some of the, or maybe a couple, what are a couple of the ways that you found, or I should say, what are a couple of your findings of, let me back up for a second here so I can phrase this question correctly. What are the important things in your work, in the ways that technology interrelates with human behavior? And again, sort of looking for some nitty-gritty specifics that our audience might find interesting.
So, David, I think to start off here is I think the technologists building technology often assume that humans behave in ideal ways and that humans can understand complex. And the vast reality is that we often need much more intuitive, much more simpler interfaces to information that are more aligned with how we communicate as humans, as opposed to how we begin to think about interacting with a robot. So I'll give you a nitty gritty. A number of years ago, we were doing some work for a major automotive manufacturer looking at how humans interacting with voice systems in vehicles. Much like we talk with another individual, we begin to look at the communication in the display interface in the vehicle as it's another human being. We look, is it hearing me? Does it actually recognize and is something happening as I speak? Because when I talk to you, whether it's through video conference or it's in person, I'm looking at your eyes and your face to look at, hey, is David picking up on how I communicate? So the black box approach of it will listen and it will respond doesn't necessarily work. We as humans are looking for those subliminal cues, those very subtle movements of a facial feature or gesture or interface to understand, hey, the technology is understanding me. You know, Google, Apple, Amazon understand this. When we look at Alexa, it's blinking when it hears me speaking. It's looking for that visual cue. So, you know, the AI engineers out there often, you know, forget about the nitty gritty of how we behave as humans and really try to move the mental model of technology forward faster than we're really capable of keeping pace with. You know, yes, there are transformative interfaces that work once in a while. But most of how we move forward with technology is not the revolution of the smartphone. It's an iterative, incremental movement. Yeah, could there be another all of a sudden iPhone out there that transforms how we communicate? Yeah, hope there is. But the reality is 99 out of 100 times, it's going to be an incremental move forward where we need to move the human along with the technology slowly and iteratively to actually see technology penetration that we're looking for. And, you know, a technology built and not utilized is a technology sitting on the shelf. So how do we encourage people to leverage what's in front of them? How do we look at the very basic interactions that we as humans have, and how do we extend that with AI and moving forward? And we see that all over the space in the vehicle front, where the vehicles are being created with technology characteristics. The first thing the human goes is, what the heck is this doing to me? Anti-lock braking systems are a long told example of this. Anti-lock brakes, you know, made this loud vibrating sound. And what did the human do? Took their foot off the brake because this is scary. Something's not right. Okay, there's an education piece that needs to move with this. Now, lane departure warning system, same thing. You hear the bing, 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 something's wrong. Looking for what's wrong. We need that reinforcement here. So if we want to look at ubiquitous technology, we need to be looking at things that really do enhance safety and convenience together. Look to maximizing utilization as opposed to maximizing the potential of an AI algorithm or interface, et cetera. You know, really systems engineering at its core.
David, can I request to go out of order, because I want to jump on and piggyback on something Brian just said, if that's okay with Christian.
Yeah, please, Tom.
Okay, because I just think what Brian is saying is so provocative in a good way. And just want to kind of highlight just a slightly different angle on it, which is something that really echoes on our work at Oats and Senior Planet. When we started Oats 18 years ago, I remember going out to talk to a lot of funders and potential sponsors and partners. And what we heard repeatedly was people saying, well, what are you going to do in 5 years when everybody's online and there's not really any more need for this, technology training anymore? And now today, we're serving 10 times or 100 times more people than we did back in those days. And many people are still coming on in relatively, novice level trainings and access points. And I think what we've learned is that too many people come at technology as if it's a very static environment. And it's this notion that somehow it's almost like filling up a pool, and you finish filling up the pool with all the water and now the pool's full. Well, the problem is it doesn't work like that, because it's not a static object that we're just completing the circle on. In fact, what's happening is that people are being introduced every year to innovative technologies in a stream of innovation. And as consumers, they're required to assess and evaluate, first of all, access what those technologies are, understand what their relative advantage might be, find an opportunity to check it out, consider whether they want to pay for it or adopt it as a platform, and then learn how to use it and become a habitual user that's got some skill that it would be able to operate, an autonomous vehicle or some of the things that Brian is talking about. And the challenge, of course, is we need to build the social processes around people's learning where those processes don't exist. And partly this is from older adults' point of view, it's because seniors live in a very age segregated society. And so they're not sitting next to somebody who may be using the most recent, version of Supernatural on their Oculus or something like that. They don't have access to that stuff. So we have to kind of artificially, with the nonprofit and government and the private sector, get out there and bridge those connections so that constantly we're building stronger adoption practices. There's a great book on this years ago by a guy named Everett Rogers, who studied the diffusion of innovation and showed that there's sort of characteristics to what gets people to adopt better. And I think that focus on the learning and social processes will enable people to match the pace of innovation that's coming out of tech, but think of it as a dynamic process. And so, when you ask sort of what the human factors are in the work that we're talking about, those social contexts, the network effects of living in a society and who you live next to and where you go to lunch and what TV shows you watch, those processes are driving technology choices every single day, and we have to account for that.
And Christian, your networks are built in a very novel and interesting way. For Paul, and would you talk a little bit about that and how you see, like I said, that structure playing in with the way that humans behave, and the way that they interact with each other and with their networks?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a fascinating conversation, and there's obviously lots of the autonomous vehicles, and AI is a very relevant thing. Would love to go deep on that from the Pronto side, but on the Pollen side, to your question about how the networks are deployed, if you're not just trying to solve, we can build private networks, we can do public-private hybrids. If you're not just trying to solve a connectivity problem for yourself or your business, we do have an incentive system where if you're providing connectivity in places, more of a public network supplement where there doesn't exist coverage or capacity, you can participate in the economics of moving the data or voice offload in those areas. So, for example, in Jenner, where we're doing the pilot, if an entrepreneur had identified that town as one that needed coverage and bought the necessary pollen equipment and set it up and provided the backhaul and power, and then people started using it, whether it was a neutral host or people subscribing to pollen plans or using pollen as a WISP, they would participate in the economic, the revenue being generated by those radios. So how do we pull that back to the intersection of the human element? There's a long list, but I think one of the more interesting anecdotes and relevant ones here is we're finding more and more the resistance to communities seeing the radios that provide them the cellular connectivity that they're asking for, and to the point where we've had folks push back and even go after some of our customers and partners, thinking that they were 5G radios. They're not. We're just doing 4G LTE right now. We will support 5G in the future, but it was the whole 5G causes cancer, causes COVID thing. So each time that's happened, there's been a resolution. We've explained, the way it works, and the power that we're operating on is less than a microwave. Your phone operates at a higher wattage, max wattage than some of our radios. So to the point made earlier about it's an education process. It truly is, and we're fighting bigger currents than just not understanding how the electromagnetic spectrum works. But we were surprised at how quickly that started coming up and becoming an issue.
Yeah, so and I'd like to remind the audience, please throw your questions in the chat. We will jump to the audience Q&A in just a few moments. But I would like to ask one more question before we get there to each of our panelists. A lot of all three of your work, and also a lot of our community here at Broadband Breakfast and the larger broadband and technology communities is focused on helping the folks who are just a little bit out of the loop, right? For us, we spend a lot of time talking about getting deployments out to communities that aren't readily available or aren't highly profitable. Obviously, on the accessibility sides, Tom's working on expanding knowledge and access to a community of to older folks, and then and again, this whole phenomenon is sort of multiplied in so many different areas with so many. It's really, I mean, it's a nationwide push that has many faces. So the question would be, for each of your projects, or I guess whatever other ideas come to mind, how are we best going to help really help everyone come into the technology space and get connected and live full, prosperous lives going forward in the next decade? What are the next steps? Does anyone want to take that?
I'm happy to kick it off if that real quick.
Let's go.
I mean, I think there's a few things here. I had a statistics professor once who talked about things that were bimodal distributions, where like you'd have, instead of one bell curve, you'd have two different kind of patterns going on. And I think in order to get people on ramped right now, there's two, for older people especially, but I think this may fit for some other populations as well. There's a lot of people that need to get onto the beginning part of a lot of the technology engagement. So for example, I think one of the real opportunities in that area is something called the Affordable Connectivity Program, which is a subsidy that was passed by the federal government that's allowing for the first time ever low-income people to use federal subsidies to pay for internet access and broadband access. It includes some cellular alternatives as well. And so there's really billions of dollars being spent in promoting access to people to lower the cost of broadband participation. And I think as individuals that are kind of in the early stages, or maybe in the kind of technology dabblers out there, we need to really focus our energies on really making it almost friction-free for them to get online. I have a guy that I met out in Louisiana in Madisonville, which is a tiny town north of New Orleans, and his name is Chester, and he's not online at all. And we spent one night sitting out on his porch drinking beer, and I was trying to figure out what would it take to get Chester to get online. He's a hardcore tech resistor, but he's taking care of his older adult wife, and he could clearly use the technology. But it turned, as we started talking about it, there's a need for kind of multiple points of support for people to get access. And some of it is the designers of the tech. We've been working with the Age Tech Collaborative at ARP actually on some guidelines for tech designers to help think about age-friendly tech design options, so that you're considering how to work with older people as you're designing. On the government side, it's providing that affordable connectivity subsidy. And on the provider side, on the telecom side, we have to get the companies helping advertise that program so that we can get full participation in it. There's no reason to have a subsidy if we don't have people using it. And then on the other side of the bimodal distribution, you've got the advanced users. They're lifestyle users for older people. We have to provide them with really high quality technology. We have to help them figure out how it fits into their lives. I think smart home devices have changed how a lot of people, certainly older adults, are looking at tech now, because it's making it more convenient and safer to be at home, or even to be away from home, be able to monitor your conditions with smart doorbells and different kinds of Internet of Things devices. And so I think we've got to work, the sort of full court press on the disconnected, many of whom are double affected by income and other barriers to participation. And on the higher end users, which is the bulk of the participants right now, we have to get them to even be more intentional around the benefits of technology for them, that value proposition, and help people build a culture of use around tech. And I think there's a real opportunity at CES this year to help advertise those benefits to people so that they can visualize how it will work for them. We're actually we have a pavilion over at the Venetian with AARP, where we're showcasing startup companies that are really pushing some really innovative and interesting tech at the ARP Age Tech Pavilion as well this year, where people can explore that.
I mean, just to jump in on that, the kind of sexy, exciting, social media alluring narrative when we first launched Pollen was all about building the next kind of generation network and being a better carrier. Some of the stuff that has us most excited and some of the biggest opportunities we found as we are a year into this now is closing that digital divide. It's shocking how much of the country, I mean, it's a huge country landmass wise and population wise. Even a small percent is still a huge number of people who don't have access to the kind of high-speed broadband access that so many of us take for granted. And it's not neglect or nefarious motivations at the big carriers or MSOs. It's just economics, right? Running fiber to every community doesn't make sense. So the applications that we're finding, like in Shreveport, where or Indian reservations, Native American reservations, or just rural communities where it doesn't make sense for a Verizon to put up a tower and provide 5G in home when it costs $250,000, and then you have to spend however many hundreds of thousands of dollars running fiber there. Being able to solve that with devices that cost, you can put up one of our radios for $5,000 and provide 100 megabit home internet access to 50 households, each one using a $100 to $200 device CPE to receive that is transformative. The economics, the ease with which people are now able to deploy those without having how would you ever go about doing that 5 years ago, right? You'd have to figure out how to run your own mobile core. Would you go to Ericsson? You're not going to have the hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend to do that. So it's just really, really exciting. And we're just starting to scratch the surface of what we can do with these new technologies. And the FCC, again, it's an amazing thing they've done with CBRS, but unlocking the spectrum was obviously key to all this. But we're excited about what the future holds, and we think there's a lot of potential for technology to change a lot of lives in this country and around the world as well.
And I'll close here.
Sorry, Ryan, go ahead.
So I'll close here. Look, I think the connectivity issues are really key to vehicle safety and security as well. I mean, we've heard of vehicle to infrastructure, vehicle to vehicle communication. Obviously, Christian talked about unlocking some more of the spectrum there. Whether that's going to be, as some manufacturers like to think, dedicated short range communication, 5G, et cetera, we need to be very much thinking forward here in whether it's CES 2023 or forward on how we really use the connectivity issues to enhance safety security in both mobile and consumer telematics devices. Whether you're trying to communicate with your bank, you're trying to communicate with your loved one, or you're trying to move from point A to point B, safety and security are really paramount. Whether that's everything from identity theft to car crashes, how do we begin to look forward more quickly and leveraging the broadband networks to communicate in a safe and secure way. And when we think forward in auto tech, it's not relying on the sensing and safety systems we've been promised of yesteryear. It's really, as I mentioned earlier, thinking much more deeply around the human-centered aspects of how we work with this technology, how we're going to leverage this technology, and how we're going to incentivize people, given the economic climate and disparities around the US, the world, to purchase the auto safety technologies that really are proven and are likely to save your life. It's really hard to think about investing dollars in a technology that you'll hopefully never need. And I think that's increasingly the case in areas where we do need federal guidance over the long haul to try to promote, standardize. We talks about reframing NCAP here in the US and desperate needs on that. Will there be any movement in the administration within its and regulatory side related to assisted and automated driving in the next year? Very open question, an area where Europe is now leading the way here versus the US.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for those insightful answers. So we've got about 5-ish minutes left, maybe a little bit less. Let's hit some rapid fire audience questions. Going along with the adoption and the affordability points about ACP, Dan Smith writes, good point about getting more people signed up for the ACP. Question, with the BEAD money for infrastructure, carriers can still do well at $30 per month. So, I mean, I'm assuming Dan's asking generally about the revenue side of things. I'm going to quickly take this one, and then if anyone has any additions, they can chime in. So, I mean, first of all, ACP, one issue with that is that it's currently set to run out, so that's going to be something that we're going to have to deal with. But something that I've heard emphasized by some folks at the Shelby conference last fall is that the revenue, even if it's ACP money, is crucial towards making these network deployments profitable. If you're not getting that return, then as a provider, you can really be in big trouble. Let's see. Going on, Drew Clark, who's that guy? He says, what are we looking, or what are we hoping to see at this CES versus other previous shows? So maybe get a quick rapid fire response from each panel. So let's start with you, Brian.
I think we're going to see a little grounding in the auto safety areas and automation areas. It's not about automation anymore. It's about human experience. And I think that's very evident in some of the advertisements I see from auto manufacturers, suppliers leading up to this. So finally, we've moved along past the hype cycle of automated vehicles.
I mean, I would agree with that. We've at Pronto, we pivoted from on-road years ago because we kind of realized it was the technology wasn't ready yet. So we think that the focus on real world use cases and applications where the technology can actually provide commercial economic value today. We're thrilled to see the industry finally kind of getting there. So excited to see what's on display in that context.
Me too.
Tom?
I mean, for us, I hate to sound boring, but so many of these technologies to us are maturing now, along, I guess, with our older adult population that we're serving out here. And so, where 7 or 8 years ago, we might have been wondering what the application of VR was going to be for older folks, or what the how useful voice activation was going to be in the home. Now we're at the point where these technologies are really commonplace. And so what we're interested in is drawing those connections with the kind of the newest versions of what are now established technologies that are absolutely life enhancing. So a lot of voice activation, a lot of smart home, some fitness tech. Those are the areas that we're really going to be focusing.
Alrighty, and we're running out of time, and so I'll give each panelist a chance to give a couple closing thoughts. I just want to reiterate what I said in the preview write-up that I did for CES, which is that broadband deployment itself it's not the end goal, right? We don't build out fiber or wireless networks or what have you, just so that we can run Ookla speed tests and pat ourselves on the back and say that we did it, right? It's about the technologies that enable that the broadband enables, and the ways that real people's lives are bettered by that. And I mean, I personally love this entire conversation. I think I could probably keep us going for another 2 or 3 hours at least. And I think the crucial thing that we've heard today is that technology needs to complement people, and technology needs to work with and for people. And that it's really, at the end of the day, like I think most other things in life, about the human experience. So with that said, we're going to go back to our very original order, which is Tom, Christian, and then Brian, and maybe some very, very brief closing thoughts before we take off.
I mean, very briefly, 2 things. Just if you're at CES, come visit us. We're going to be at the Venetian at the ARP Age Tech Pavilion. We'd love to talk to people and show you what we're doing. If you are interested in working in your community with Senior Planet, contact us. We're at seniorplanet.org, and you can message me at info@oats.org and track us down, because we can provide training and support for your local institutions to wrap around a lot of these services that help people make the most of the internet. And it's free.
I would close with 2 things. One, I think you put it very well, David, in kind of to the last point. We're very excited about finding real world use cases for leading technologies, and we think it's super exciting that the theme this year at CES is focused on that. Not to ding, looking far into the future and building really cool speculative technologies, because that's where everything comes from. But we're just very excited to be kind of at a good intersection of the theme this year. And then 2, a shameless plug. We'd love to discuss more with anybody. We are going to be at CES. We're having a happy hour with some of the other folks in the decentralized wireless space. So there'll be some other companies there who are doing some exciting things. Thursday at 7:00 at the Cosmo Chandelier bar. You can check us out on Twitter for details. It's just our handle's Paul and Mobile. But we'd love to meet everybody here and further discuss later this week.
Yeah, I think, David, your summary is pretty strong there. But it's all about how do we get electronic technology and technology in general to support our lives, make us live safer, convenient, more economical, mobility, entertainment, lifestyle decisions. So very much looking beyond the technology to integrating that technology and human experience, and look forward to seeing some of what's on the show floor here. Be roaming around tomorrow.
Well, with that,
alrighty.
Thank you so much, David. And with that, I want to just thank everyone for being here while you're in Las Vegas. A reminder that next Wednesday, we will be talking at Broadband Breakfast Live Online about how to challenge the FCC's broadband map. On behalf of David McGarry, who did a wonderful job moderating, and Tom Camber of Oats, Christian Kurasek, and Brian Reimer, I'm Drew Clark with Broadband Breakfast. We'll see you next Wednesday. And don't forget to check out all of our coverage at broadbandbreakfast.com. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.